This is a retelling of Ambrose Bierce's classic short story, The Boarded Window. This setting may be more in tune with current times, but the human emotions of guilt and grief remain timeless. For more upcoming stories, hit the subscribe button. So settle in and let's begin. There's an old cabin past the ridge, tucked so deep in the woods you don't just stumble across it by accident. You have to know where you're going, or be lost. I've been there once. The roof is sagging, the walls are chewed up with moss and weather, but it isn't the ruin that gets your attention. It's the window on the east side. Every other window is just plain cracked glass, but that one, it's covered. Not with shutters, not with storm planks, but nailed down with boards, jagged and weather blackened, hammered in like someone was desperate. Standing there as a kid, I remember thinking it looked less like protection and more like punishment. When I asked my grandfather why it was boarded, he didn't laugh it off like a grown up usually does. He just stared at the place for a while, his face set hard, and then he told me the story. I was only about 10 then. Now I'm older, but I've never forgotten the way he told it. The cabin, he said, belonged to a man named Jacob. Jacob wasn't a legend or a monster. He was just a man, though people remembered him for being quiet, even back when he lived in town. He was the type who could spend an evening at the bar and not say more than a handful of words. But he wasn't cruel or cold. He kept to himself. But when he married, folks said he smiled more often than anyone had ever seen. His wife was his light. Wanting some space and peace, Jacob built that cabin at the edge of the forest. Life was hard, yes, but it was theirs. He hunted, cut wood, grew a small garden together. They lived simply but content. People in town saw them rarely, but when they did, both of them seemed happy, joyful, in peace. Not exactly talkative, but lighter, as if living out there had given them what they needed. Then came the sickness. My grandfather didn't know the details. Maybe pneumonia, but whatever it was, it hit her quick. Jacob did everything he could, but he wasn't a doctor. No one was near enough to help. By the time night fell, she had gone still. Jacob was devastated. He didn't scream or cry, he just went very quiet. He wrapped her carefully and laid her in the front room of the cabin. He planned to dig a grave at dawn when there was light enough to see. Until then, he stayed by her side. His rifle leaned against the chair beside him, though he wasn't expecting trouble. It was just habit out there. He sat in silence for hours, the fire burning low, shadows moving against the walls. Exhaustion settled heavy on him, and eventually he slipped into a half sleep. That was when it happened. He woke to a sound, a thud, claws scraping across the floor, a guttural snarl. In the darkness, a wild animal had come through the window. Some said it was a panther, others a wolf. Maybe just a desperate dog, but whatever it was, it had smelled weakness and come for the body. Jacob snatched up his rifle and fired. The shot lit the room for an instant, the beast's eye flashing green in the lamplight before it shrieked and bolted out into the woods, leaving the cabin thick with gun smoke. Jacob couldn't take it anymore. He fell on the floor and likely fainted. When he gained consciousness, it was dawn, but the silence heavier than before. Then he turned back toward his wife. What he saw stopped him cold. The shroud he had so carefully wrapped around her was shredded, her throat torn, but her face was alive in a way he hadn't seen since before the sickness. Her eyes were wide open, her jaw clenched, and between her bloody teeth was something soft and dark, the torn tip of the animal's ear. My grandfather said Jacob never recovered from that truth. He buried her the next morning, but after that he wasn't the same man. He didn't leave the woods, didn't return to town. When people caught glimpses of him, he was thin, silent, and hollow eyed, as if something had chewed the life out of him. The one thing he did almost immediately was board up that window, hammered the planks across so no light, no air, no sound could ever pass through it again. People said they heard him at night driving nails long after midnight, like he thought he could seal away what had happened if only he made the board strong enough. Even now, when I walk past that cabin sometimes and see the rotting planks nailed tight across the window, I feel it. The weight of the guilt nailed into the wood, still holding after all these years. And that was my narration of Ambrose Bierce's short story, The Boarded Window. If you enjoyed this retelling, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell so you don't miss the next one. See you soon.